Hello, Enjoy Church. It is good to be with you tonight. Now, I know we're not there. We've been on vacation. We've been refueling, re-energizing, and getting ready for the next half of the year, the great things that God has in store for us. I hope you had a good 4th of July, and you're going to have a good service tonight. Now, we'll be back this Sunday. This Sunday, make plans to be with us at Enjoy Church. I want to thank Matt and also Pastor Ryan, Pastor Matt, for speaking and doing such an incredible job. Tonight, you are in for a treat also, because we have with us one of our members, one of our very own, who a lot of people don't know this, but the person that I'm going to introduce to you tonight has her own company. She has had for many years. I went to high school with her. That's Tammy Tiller-Hewitt. And Tammy is a world-class communicator, motivational speaker. She is hilarious. She's fun. She's going to bring God's word to us tonight. She speaks all over this nation to businesses and companies, and she is going to speak to us here at home tonight. One of our very own members. This is about time we hear from you, Tammy. I'm glad you're with us tonight. Enjoy Church. I want you to bring the applause and give Tammy a big welcome. Make her feel right at home on the platform. Well, this is her home, and it's your home too. You're going to be blessed by this word that you're going to hear tonight. Tammy, come and bless us with God's word.
I was trying to talk over PD. Okay, that's my glamour shot. Let's let it go. Let's quickly. Anybody yo-yo weight like I do? That was a yo-yo the other direction than I am now. So, hey, Enjoy Church. I'm so excited to be here. Tonight is a bucket list for me. As Pastor Daren said, I keep forgetting to call him Pastor Daren instead of Daren because we were friends in high school. I speak around the country, but I've never had the privilege to speak to a church. So I always drop J-bombs in all of my talks, Jesus bombs, and I get some flack for that, but I don't care because maybe that's addressing some of the unbelievers, right? So let me ask you this. Who loves Pastor Daren? Wow. Now, that's going to be a competition to try to compete with him for a popularity contest. All right, well, was anyone on O'Fallon Sunday and heard his message at the 1040 session? Listen, you guys missed it. Ryan, where are you? Over here. Okay, there you are, my friend. He's like my little brother. Well, anyway, it was the funniest church service I've ever attended, where I also learned something that stuck to me like glue that I'm going to use tonight. So Ryan's mama was in the house. Now, she preached from out there, and he preached from up here, right? It was so awesome. And so, we're in a service right now of Who Do You Think You Are? I love that title. And this message on Sunday was about being an overcomer, right? So he modeled being an overcomer right here on stage as his mama was helping him preach. I do believe she corrected you once. She did. And I do believe that the music got turned up a little bit when they were singing because it was so awesome. But anyway, he kept giving her props, going, "That's right. Don't you wish you had a mom like that?" But one time, I guess she was pushing you because he's like, "Mama, stop pushing me!" It was so awesome. It was so awesome. But in his message about being an overcomer, he was talking about how God wants us to fight the good fight, right? And how he gives us the armor of God to fight, right? So we've got the head, the breast, the waist, I won't go through all the scripture with you. But one thing God doesn't do is he doesn't talk about anything for this side. And you know why, right? Because, say again? God's got your back. That's right. He wants you to stand and face. You don't need to be running. But here's what he said, which stuck to me like glue. He said, he, as in Pastor Ryan, said, God can do anything, but that's not news, right? We all know that. But he ended it with 2 words that stuck. God can do anything but fail. Right. Woo! Honey, you talk to me. You modeled it, baby. You modeled it. All right, so let's talk about intentional living. That's our message tonight. We're going to talk about 4 things that you need to know about living an intentional life. You ready to go? Let's go to the next slide. So there is a big difference between good intentions and intentionality. And a lot of people get these words because it's the same type of word. But there couldn't be anything further from different. So you know what they say, next slide, about the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So that kind of sets it up for you right there. God doesn't give us credit for good intentions, right? We can have a lot of good intentions. I'm going to do this nice. I'm going to help this person. I'm going to change this. But if we don't get credit for it. So whatever happens in here, most of the time is just hurting you versus helping other people. So next slide. So the number one thing that we have to do to lead a life of intention is act. Is to just take action. We've all heard the saying, actions speak louder than words. I like how Emerson says on this next slide, what you do speaks so loud that I cannot hear what you say. Right? Isn't that the truth? And then next, I'll just quote some scripture right out of 1 John. Let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and truth. And then out of the NLT, it says, let's not merely say that we love each other, let's show the truth by our actions, right? All right. Talk is cheap. Like, show me the money. That's right. All right, next slide. So really, it's action that activates our results. And it's what causes intentional living. So there are a lot of myths around action. That if you're busy, you're productive. If you're productive, then you're intentional, right? How many of you know we can be really, really busy, but not getting anything done? Right? Listen, I'm a pro. I am a pro at squirrel, chasing rabbits all day long. Next slide. But the reality of it, these things are not the same at all. So how many of you love Madagascar? Next slide. What we have to do is just move it. Listen, I had a clip in this that we were going to play and we were going to dance, or I was going to dance and hopefully you were going to dance along. That we like to move it, right? Who wants to sing it with me? Come on. We like to move it. He likes to move it. She likes to move it. Move it. All right. So we just need to move it. So here's what I get when I start talking to people about, you got to take action. They're like, but Tammy, you just don't understand. You don't understand my life. You don't understand my family. I got such a generational curse on me. I can't stop cussing. I can't stop drinking. I can't stop cheating. It's like, you know what? Get your butt out of the way. And let's start moving it. Now, I want to just, in every platform that I can, I say this. Please, people, stop comparing your behind-the-scenes real life with what people are posting on Facebook. I mean, with people's on-stage life. Right? Who posts on Facebook about something that, like, your ugliest picture, your dirtiest house? No, we post it when the lawn is mowed, when our house is clean, when our hair and our makeup is on. So, but that's how we compare, like, wow, how can they have such a great life? They have the same life you have, all right? Next slide. So we have to be able, in our action, to break the chain. You can be the generation in your family that breaks the curse. Why does it always have to be someone else or someone down the road? Do it. Just be intentional. Stop. Fill in the blank, whatever is going on. You know, in Exodus it says, I lavish unfailing love for 1,000 generations on those who love me and obey my commands. All right? Break the chains that bind you. Isn't that a song? I think it is. All right. So next slide. So wherever you are, that's where your journey starts. Some people could be in a better place today than you are. It doesn't matter. It matters what's going on with you. Today, this conversation is between me and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you. All right? This is about you. You can make it happen. Next slide. So wherever you are, this is where you're going to start, but it's not where you're going to stay. Do not hear me say anything today about complacency, that you're going to arrive and you can just start camping out once you get there. No, we have to constantly reinvent ourselves. God did not give you all the talent and gifts that you have for you to just get to one destination and be done. If you're not dead, you're not done. That's just the way it is. Okay, next slide. So action automatically starts making you different. And that's all right. But people won't like that, especially the devil. That's how you need to know for sure that things are happening and you're going in the right direction. You do want it. And I've heard a lot of people say this, but I love it when your feet hit the ground, the devil's like, oh, hell, she's up. Let's watch out, right? So you need to be okay that not everyone likes you. Because you know what? You don't want everyone to like you. If you were excellent and you met mediocre, would you guys like each other? No. Right? No. We just went. Next. How many recognize this? Anybody ever take their kids, ever have kids, ever gone to a pediatrician's office or a family practitioner's office? I'm in the health field, so listen, I look for the Where's Waldo book as soon as I get to the practice. So I can that's my contest to try to get it before I get there. Well, in a kind of respect or honor of summer, I look for Waldo on the beach here. Now look at all the sea of people all blending in. If you're not willing to take action and differentiate yourself, here's what the world looks like. It's like, where is she? Where is Ryan? Where is he wearing that goofy stripe? Next slide. Oh, wait a minute. There he is. But he's still hard to see even though we zoomed in. Next slide. And there he is. So go back a couple of slides. Keep an eye on that thing that looks like a popcorn box. And then back, see, he's still there. Back, he's still there. But he even gets harder when we even know where he is to find him. Keep going. So that's why we want to be able to differentiate ourselves. So I love this saying. It says those who do usually get the most criticism from those who can't or won't. There's a book that I read. I used to work at BJC for 20 years. I worked for Alt Memorial, as that's where I was birthed, my career. But in our leadership team there, we read a book called Paradigms, which, is like our perspective, my paradigm, your paradigm, the way we see things. But by Joel Barker. And in that book, he talked about a million cliches that hopefully I'll get to talk to you again and I'll share with you. But he said, I may have just had an absolute brain freeze right in front of you. He said, those who say it can't be done need to get out of the way of those who are doing it, right? And when I talk to audiences, I always say, whether you're in a church group or you're in a neighborhood group or a work group, it's like, don't you just think, if they just wouldn't show up today, man, I could get so much done. All right? I mean, not you guys, but, other places. Okay, next slide. All right, intentional potential. Look, we all have crazy potential in us. And I will tell all of you here today, all of you on Facebook, not one of us in this room or on TV are living up to our potential. It's just the fact. And you know what? Be encouraged. Because wherever you are, you're not supposed to stay there because you've got so much more potential. But we're either green and growing or we're ripe and rotting. You decide. I don't know. I want to be growing. Next slide. So we have to stand guard over almost everything so that we're influenced right, what we read. I used to read love stories, novels like Fabio. Anybody heard of Fabio? Now, the younger generation and the seniors don't know so much about Fabio. And the way I know that is, anybody watched the movie Moneyball before with Brad Pitt? And I love the movie. I've watched like 1,000,000 times. Well, anyway, when Billy Bean was the manager, and he was with his recruiters, and they were trying to find players and that they could afford. And he said, all we're looking for is good-looking guys and, Fabios. And one of the older recruiters said, Fabio? Who's Fabio? And I was like, oh, yeah, Fabio. He plays second base for someone else. I'm like, He doesn't even know who Fabio is. So for those of you who don't know who Fabio is, he's this big hunk. Well, he kind of looks like that. In this love story, or romance books. Well, my husband one time walked up to me and said, you shouldn't be reading that. And I'm looking at it like, what does it say from the outside that he doesn't think I should read this? And he said, that's setting up unrealistic expectations for our relationship. I'm like, what up? You're not going to carry me to bed? Nah. But it really is the truth. So what we read, what we watch, whether it's TV or other stuff, we just need to be careful about what we're letting in, who and what we listen to. How many of you, you can tell when your kids or a friend of yours has been hanging with someone else? Immediately, like, oh boy, he's been hanging with. We have to watch it, and then we have to watch our own words. Now, not only what we say, but our words, we talk to ourselves incessantly, right? All day long. Do this, don't do this. Whoa, that was stupid. Wow, what'd you say that for? Wow. Right? So we are our own worst enemy. I mean, we lose so many opportunities and fights because of defeat in our mind, right? Every decision, every action, every word spoken first takes place in your head. So we have to be careful. I also will not let anyone speak negativity over my children. If anyone says anything like, well, they aren't careful, they're going to get in a wreck, I'm like, excuse me? You need to back that up, because do not speak anything negative over my children. You just do not say anything negative. All right, next. First impressions. Now, did you know that Princeton University psychologists suggest that it takes 0.1% of a second for someone to make a first impression of you, or us to make a first impression of someone else? So, depending on the audience, I think first impressions are important for all of us, especially who are in church and are trying to lead a life that people are thinking, what's up with you? Whatever it is, I want some of that. And when they find out it's Jesus, like, whoa, just by the way we live. So first impressions are super important, because I wish they would have studied that, well, it takes 1/10 of a second to first impression. How many hours does it take to unwind that first impression? That's what I'd love to know, because that's going to be the hard part. Okay, next slide. Which reminds me, listen, if you want to take action, you guys come and sit in this 2 days. There are world-class speakers and authors that are going to be right here on our screen listening to. Like, I own and listen to every single thing Andy Stanley has ever written. I might even be able to know his thoughts. I am so obsessed with him. Not really, but don't miss it. Next slide. Okay, so Michael Hyatt is another guy that I highly recommend. You guys reading or listening to his podcast, he's a wonderful man of God. He also used to be the president of Thomas Publishing, which publishes a lot of Christian materials. But he says people don't want to commit until they have clarity, but clarity comes with movement. So let me tell you this, because you were looking at the diet queen. Seriously, the next time you see me, I will either be 30 up or 30 down, and it'll just have to wait and see where I am. So, but the bottom line is motivation follows action, right? How many of you have stopped smoking, drinking, eating, and that first day was so hard you thought you're going to die? And then the next day it's like, I got this. It's like it gives you motivation that next day. If you can just go to bed that night, because let's go to bed. Just go to bed. I have been on a diet and gone to bed at 5 o'clock because I wanted to eat so bad that I just went to bed. So clarity comes once you start taking action. Okay, so that was number 1, action. Number 2, our why. Your why is the lifeblood to intentional living. And you often hear that there are 2 great days in your life. The day you were born again, and the day you figured out why, the why, all right? So it's the why that becomes our lens to our way. So once we know our why, that helps us stay in the race, right? And next slide on discipline. I mean, people hate this word. It's such a dirty word. Discipline is irrelevant when you have a why, because you're just like so focused on your finish line, on your why. It's like it's the metal in your backbone of your why. Discipline is just not a dirty word anymore. Although I love telling the story of, how when people work out in the morning, including me, which isn't very often. But whenever I do, I come in like, whoa, I'm kind of stiff. I got a big workout in this morning before 5 a.m. But, but then I'm disciplined. If I did not work out and I ate a bagel slopped up with lots of marshmallow and cream cheese, I don't talk about how disciplined I am. But really, seriously, when you have a why, it doesn't matter. Okay, next slide. All right, so here's, how we talked about potential, how none of us are living up to the potential that we have. In fact, we're probably like touching a little bitty piece of our potential. So when you think about coming up with your why, I want you guys to think big. So think about it if your why is up to here and you hit to here before you die, right? But what if your why is here? Because you're like, I can't go that big. That's a little weird. And you hit to here. Look at the difference. Just by setting your bar high, you're going to naturally go higher. So when I think about enlarging your vision, which is your why, I think about the story of I'm going to get it. He's a prince from somewhere, and I'll think about where he came from. But he came to the States to golf, and he met this golf pro. And have you ever just met someone and you're like almost instantaneously, like Ryan? I love you, man. I mean, I hit it, and it sounds like all you guys feel the same way, but I thought it was just our special bond. But anyway, you just hit it off. So this pro and this prince, just Saudi prince, just hit it off. And so when the golf tournament was over, the prince invited the golf pro to come to his country and golf for a couple of weeks. He's like, hey, yeah, I'm there. So he brought his plane over. The prince came, took the pro, went over. They golfed for a couple of weeks, stayed in the palace, it was a royal trip, literally. And so the prince flew back with the pro. And as they were departing or deplaning, the prince said, hey, I want to buy you something. Let me buy you something. He's like, are you kidding me? You just let me stay in a palace. I was like a king for 2 weeks. He's like, no, it's custom for our country as a token of our appreciation to buy you a gift. And the pro said, okay, I collect golf clubs. So give me a golf club. The prince is like, okay, bye. So about 2 weeks, the pro started looking in the mail, wonder when this club's going to come. And I bet it's going to be like gold-plated handle, monogrammed with my name on it. I mean, it's going to be cool. So he kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally, 2 months later, a letter came, an envelope. And he opened up the envelope, and it was the deed to a 500-acre golf course. So that pro was like, oh, if I could just get a club, just a little club, that's all I'm worthy of. But that prince was thinking like we should be thinking, big, a 500-acre golf course. So I want you to enlarge your vision. This is my all-time favorite scripture. And if this doesn't motivate you and give you some mojo to go out there and make it happen, nothing will. No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived the things God has in store for those who love him. Our minds can't even conceive it. It's so big. Hello? All right. Next slide, please. Dreams. Did you know a lot of people have a dream to start their own business, and I say go for it. I'm 17 years into our business, and I love it. It was my husband's idea. I can't take credit for it, but it's been an awesome ride. But did you know that 90% of businesses fail the first time? That's a horrible statistic. But 90% of second businesses succeed. But 80% of the people don't go at it a second time. So they walk away from this awesome opportunity because it's like, yep, failed once, can't do it again. That's not, come on. Think of that if this was the same statistics applied just to whatever your dream is. Go for it. Next slide. So where do you think the richest places in the world are? I ask audiences all over. They say Dubai, Switzerland. What's the new word? Sounds like Qatar, but it's like Qatar. It's really like the wealthiest place in the world. But really, the wealthiest place in the world, next slide. Yep. Because buried there are dreams that were never fulfilled. I do not care if you're sitting in this audience and you are 80 years old. It ain't over. Your best days are ahead of you. And for you youngins here, think of all the life that you have, all the awesome things you guys can do. I mean, you've got to make it happen. You've got to, right, thank you, Ryan. One person, move it. All right, so we need to be prepared for change. And I told you earlier that the more you're doing something that the devil doesn't like, the more he's going to throw up barriers. And I always tell my friends and family, the tougher the barriers, the closer you are to your breakthrough. So hang on, man. Just hang on. Next slide. You need to let the fire inside you burn brighter than the fire outside of you. All right? Next slide. I want to tell you about two tribes as we talk about owning our dream, owning our why. It has to be your why, not your mama's why, not your spouse's why, not your kid's why. It has to be your why. God put your why in you, your potential. There were two tribes. They were enemies. One tribe was on the top of the mountain, and the other one were down in the valley. They never bothered each other, but they were arch enemies. Until one day, the Highlanders came down and attacked the Valley tribe. They stole, they tore up, they burned, they even kidnapped a baby. And when the dust settled and they figured out what was going on, all these great warriors of the tribe got together and said, we are going to go up and we're going to rescue that baby. So they got everything ready and they head out. They head up the mountain. And about a week went by and they were at camp and they were struggling. They could not make it up. They had no idea how this other tribe, survived in this terrain. And as they were debating on going back or giving it another day, they saw something come down the mountain. And they're looking, and as it gets closer, it's like, it's the baby's mom. And on her back is the baby. And they got up close to the words. They're like, how? How on earth did you do it? We are great warriors, and we weren't able to make it. And you know what she said to them? It's not your baby. Mama bears out there? Can I get an amen? That's right. Your dream, your vision, your why, it's your baby. I know, Papa Bears, you're grizzlies too. You'd go after those babies. I didn't mean to leave you out of that. All right, number 3, intentional relationship. Next slide. The very first psalm, very first, 1:1. Oh, where'd it go? It says, oh, the joy of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked or stand around the sinners or join in with mockers. Oh, there it is. It appeared. It's like magic. So go back. So who influences you? So a lot of people, as we talk about intentional living, they're like, who do I influence? And you should think about that. You should think about just living your life. I'll tell you a side story. This is probably kind of creepy on me telling, but he's not here and he doesn't have Facebook. That's my husband. So one day I'm leaving for work and my blouse was a little bit low cut. And he's like, ew. To him, he's like, Rrr. But he's like, you're wearing that? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll help me today. He's like, really, Tammy? You could actually lead somebody to sin by having that. I'm like, really? Looking at me? Okay. But that's really, he's so wise. Now I wish he was watching. He's such a wise man. But in all reality, who does influence you? Because we have to be so intentional about our relationships. If nothing else, hear me on this. Kids, I see you two girls right there. I know the light's in my eyes, but I can see your pretty faces right there. You be careful who you hang with. Next slide. What is this? An elevator? Who are these people? Well, they're elevator people. And what are they doing? Next slide. Well, they're going up or they're going down. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? Who are the, next slide, who are the elevator people in your life? Next slide. You might want to take out a piece of paper sometime and just make a list. Who is in your life that brings you up, makes you better, just puts the wind in your sail? And who's the people that just right? We have to make a decision to love some people from afar. Let it go. Next slide. So you can't see this, but I don't think, but there are two trains. One is staying on the track. It's called derailed. And the other one is significance. So there are few things that can derail your pursuit for significance and excellence, your why, than hanging around with somebody who's not on the same track that you're on. They're not on the same direction. And I do believe sometimes that people don't mean to, but they subconsciously derail your plan. Because it's like, ooh, this is weird. She's being all something and doing something. And so they subconsciously derail you. Next slide. What are these two words? How do they fit together? Pastor Daren said it recently. That's right. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. My sweet mother, who's quiet, Ryan. I love your mama. She always used to say, you are who you hang with. Listen, we had a big family, lots of kids. My parents got married when they were very, very young. And so we didn't have a ton of stuff, but man, my mom made us feel like we were a part of the Rockefellers. But I had this one friend who was an only child, and that girl got everything she wanted all the time. French fries in her room when she wanted. So, but my mom would say, fine, you want to go, you go. But she could always tell after I came home with that, I want kind of syndrome. So you are who you hang with. Next slide. How many of you know much about the redwood trees? They're beautiful. They grow to like 350 feet. You can barely see the top of them. Sometimes you can't. The interesting part about them is their root system is so shallow. They're only like 5 feet. So how can a 5-foot root hold up a 350-foot tree? It's because they grow together with their sister trees and they weave in. And you can even have one that's dying that will suck the life through its relationship underground with another. That's how we need to think about the friends that we're hanging with, the right friends, the right people. And then we lean on them, and then together we're better. But we're only as good as the worst behaving person in our relationship. We're not going to lift up if we don't have excellence. Now, that doesn't mean we don't want to help someone and bring them along, but you have to think about how much you're going to help and how much you're going to enable. That's a big difference. Next slide. Okay, so the fourth one is intentional legacy, and this is my favorite of all. So legacy is not about money. I had one guy say, I have nothing to leave behind to my kids. I'm like, it ain't about money, honey. That's called inheritance. I'm talking about legacy. And did you know that every single one of us have already left legacies behind? Whether it's in high school, junior high, grade school, church, neighborhood, friends, whatever, you always leave a legacy. And there are 3 options. You leave a good one, you leave a bad one, or none at all. I know, right? So the wonderful thing about legacy is we get to write it. It's about us. Don't let somebody else write your legacy. That is just crazy when I think about that. Next slide. So what do you want to be known for? You can just write it. What's one thing that you want to be known for? Like, man, when she left, it was like they sucked the air out of the room. Wouldn't that be cool? Right? That's you, Tina. It's like, man, what happened to the air? What happened to the air in here? Next slide. So maybe life isn't about avoiding the bruises. Maybe it's about collecting the scars to prove we showed up. Stop being afraid of some bumps and bruises and embarrassment as you were trying to figure out your why. Or how about live your why? It's all right. It's all right to have some bruises along the way. I remember there used to be this Hallmark card that talked about sliding into home plate and something. But anyway, I forgot it. So next slide. So the 50/80 legacy. Oh my gosh, this made me stop in my tracks. I heard someone describe a woman as she died when she was 50, but we didn't bury her till she was 80. So since my friend, I better not mention who this is, I called, we were getting ready to go to their house, and I called and said, hey, how's it going? We're on our way. What you doing? She said, just waiting to die. I'm like, just waiting to die? Who says that? Who says that? That is not even funny. So I watched a movie over the weekend about a woman who all her friends had died, and she had been a very successful businesswoman, but she was a little tough. And she was living in a man's world back in the 60s or something. But anyway, started this ad agency and was very successful. But since she was retired, she's bored stiff. She tries to commit suicide. She fails at that. And she's reading the paper. I'm eating breakfast one day with a glass of wine, and it spills, and she's patting it up with the newspaper, and it's the obituaries. And she's like, she has a new mission. She's going to write her own obituary. So she goes to the newspaper where she had funded years back, so they knew her the minute she walked in the door and wanted to talk to the person who wrote the obituary. And so she's going to have her write it. And so she gave her a list of all these people that she had worked with and, had been married to, and said, go, find out some great things and then write this creative obituary like you write of all these people who are already dead. So this girl goes from end to end of the earth, and she cannot find anyone that will say anything good about this woman. In fact, the one lady said, the only thing good I can say is after she dies, I'll say, oh, good, she's dead. And so the girl came back and said, she puts the B in obituary. So it was just a really funny movie and timely, given that I was going to talk tonight about writing our own obituary. So think about that if you had to write it. I remember one time my dad was depressed because he was reading the obituaries, because, after you get a certain age, that's the first thing you go to in the paper to see if your name's in there. But he's like, wow, I don't know what they're going to write about me. I have all these people, have all these degrees and companies and all that. And I'm like, Dad, how about you raise 4 successful kids who love God and love you? And how about that? I mean, when did we stop giving credence to that kind of stuff? And right? Okay, so next slide. So let me pose this to you. And I know we're in church, and I know Jesus is the ultimate character in the story, but what if the greatest story ever told is the one with you as the main character? Now, think about it. In your family, in your neighborhood, in your friends, like when they tell the story, you are the main character in a good way every time. You can make that happen. This isn't just like made up so I could put it on a slide deck. This is the real deal. Next slide. So it's about over, guys. It's about over, kids. And so I hope that tonight you've had some fun, because that's, in my opinion, that's how I learn best, is to have some fun along the way. And I know that I'm very guilty in my delivery and my wardrobe of trying to pack 20 pounds into a 5-pound bag. So listen, if I overwhelmed you tonight, I'm sorry. But remember, it's just 4 things for intentional living. 1, action, move it. Right? We can do that. Number 2, it's finding your why to show you your way. Number 3, it's about relationships, and do not underestimate how they can suck you down or build you up. And the 4th is your legacy. So I want to encourage you about value, about you and your value. Because I think oftentimes, we get confused and think, oh, she's talking about someone else. That's somebody else's life she's talking about that can make a difference. Listen, Jesus didn't die to make you valuable. He died to prove your value. He made the ultimate investment in you. And if that doesn't give you encouragement to take the gifts and the talents and the desires that you have and put them to work for the good, he would not put anything in you that you don't love to do. So please know that he is not going to make you a farmer if you wanted to be a this, and he's not going to make you a this if you wanted to be a farmer. You're going to know some of the natural talents that you have. But you have to know that just like great athletes, entertainers, and performers, everybody has to practice. They still have to give it their all. They still have to work for it. All of this stuff sounds all funny and awesome, and it is, but you have to work for it. But you have it in you that no one else has in them, like you have it in you. So I just want to go back to, back to Ryan and his message on Sunday. When Jesus ultimately declared our value, we have to understand that when we're concerned that I don't have the support to do this stuff this lady's talking about. Again, we're back to the buts. But they're real to people. They're very real. It's like they just totally disclaim everything that I'm saying. If you heard nothing else tonight, hear this. You and God are a majority. Period and end of story. So if there are 10 people that are standing against you, it doesn't matter. With you and God, you're a majority. You're 10 million. So you have to know that. And you need to know that he believes in you. I believe in you. This church believes in you. Look at this awesomeness that they're providing for you. And just as Ryan said, we have to remember that God can do all things but fail. So go out there and live intentional. Okay? Is that good enough for today? All right.